There's one thing I can't seem to shake about Furio. He's originally introduced into the show when Tony imports him from Italy to sort out problems that nobody else can. And honestly, I never really looked much further than that. I mean, the first time he walks into that massage parlour, he's utterly terrifying. It's one of my personal favourite scenes in the entire show. It's such a guilty pleasure of mine watching him rain havoc on that parlour, but really, he just walks in, does his job, and leaves. The first time I watched this scene was with my uncle, and I remember thinking, fucking hell, this guy is an absolute psychopath. And that was kind of the end of it. Then I watched that scene again a few weeks ago in preparation for this video, and here's what's weird, he never really looks angry, but he's also not enjoying himself either. Unless he's just really good at hiding it. Furio just gets on with it. And this got me thinking about the rest of the crew. I mean, all you have to do is look at Tony losing his temper constantly. Jesus, even Silvio has these little moments where you know exactly what's going on in his head. But Furio doesn't. He's almost completely still. Even when everything around him isn't. At first, I thought that meant he just didn't have that much going on underneath. Like he was this emotionless Terminator David Chase dropped into New Jersey like an A-bomb. But the more I went back, the less that made sense to me. Because once Furio settles into the life of an American, you start catching these tiny little moments. There's a warmth radiating off of him that completely clashes with the man we were introduced to in season 2. And that's when something clicked for me. I don't think Furio's different because he feels less than everybody else. I think he's different because he hides it better. There's a massive difference between these two. And once I started looking at him like that, I couldn't really stop. His violence no longer felt like the interesting part of his character anymore. The interesting part was everything he was keeping under control. And I couldn't help thinking, if Furio's been this good at hiding how he feels, what happens when he finally feels something he can't hide? There's one part of Furio's story I don't think I ever paid much attention to, and that's his father's funeral. Honestly, the first few times I watched The Sopranos, I barely thought about it. Furio goes back to Italy and then he comes home, and the story carries on. There's nothing more to it than that. Or so I thought. Then I watched these scenes again, and for the first time, I think I finally got it. I was watching Furio, and it's one of the only times in the entire series where he doesn't just feel like Tony's enforcer, or the Italian. he doesn't even really feel like a gangster at all. He just feels like a man saying goodbye to his father. And there's something about seeing him like that that completely recontextualized this character to me. And it's not because he suddenly became this emotional character, but it's because for the first time you realise he'd been emotional all along, and he's just been incredibly good at hiding it. When Furio comes back to New Jersey, everything is exactly where he left it. He rides through the same streets and he interacts with the exact same crew, but every time I watch those episodes, I get this strange feeling. It's almost like Furio is seeing America for the first time. Or maybe he's seeing what he'd been ignoring the entire time. There's a scene where Carmela comes over to his house and they're walking around the garden, talking about the work that Furio's been doing with the plants and the house. It's such an intimate little scene. Every time I watch it, I find myself with this cheesy little smile on my face.
Well, it's a small space, but I guess that makes it a decorating challenge.
The man in the store says to put mirrors, but Mama thinks it's nose in the air when people look at themselves.
How about, let's see, something like this?
That's beautiful. She's fallen in love with that place.
It's so cozy with the pillows. It's romantic. Not that your mother...
I never thank you for helping me.
That's okay.
You're a very special woman.
Have you thought about flooring yet?
Not really, no.
Ma quando porta sta sabbia?
Speak English, for Christ's sakes.
Well, if she doesn't go for mirrors, we should pick a light-colored ceramic tile, maybe.
All the houses back home have tile floors.
Well, then we should go to color tile, then. They have everything.
I would love to go with you there.
Great, it's a date, then.
Good. It's a date.
Neither of them seems interested in pretending to be somebody else. They're just talking, and in The Sopranos, that's actually quite rare. For years I thought this was where Furio fell in love with Carmela, but now I'm not so sure. Because every time they spend time together, it never feels like they're escaping with each other. It feels like they're escaping from everything else. That's really a different feeling, and maybe that's why these scenes have always stuck with me. They're so ordinary. They're just two people enjoying a bit of peace in a world that doesn't really allow them to. And I think that's what Furio starts falling in love with. Not Carmela, but the feeling. Because once you spent your whole life doing what everybody else expects from you, I imagine the quiet moments start meaning a lot more than the loud ones. And once I started looking at Furio like this, the story didn't feel like a romance anymore. It felt like watching someone slowly realise that there might be another way to live. The thing I've always found most interesting about Furio and Carmela's relationship is that nothing actually happens. Seriously, when you compare it to the vast affairs across the entirety of The Sopranos, it's unbelievably quiet. Most of the time, they're just standing in a garden or having morning coffee while they wait for Tony to shatter this illusion. And somehow, these scenes carry far more tension than any other affair in the entire show.
One time, back in Naples, I work in the garden as a landscaper for a very rich man. Just me, I work there alone, growing olives. My hands in the dirt, the hot sun. I was never so happy in my life as when I work at that place. Sometimes I get the smell of olives in a restaurant, in a store maybe. It makes me very sad. Carmela? Carmela, you come too.
Yeah, come, go ahead. Good idea.
Okay, you watch me, you do the same. Everybody, come on. Everybody, come on. That's it.
Sorry, I'm so
Oh.
sad.
Oh, no, you're good. Come. Come on.
This is because the real story isn't actually about what these characters are going to do. It's about what they don't do. Every time Furio looks at Carmela, you don't just see it, but you can feel it. Every scene quietly asks the same question. How much longer can this carry on? The first time I watched the show, I imagine I felt the same as most people on their first watch. I was waiting for their affair. I thought, surely this is where it's going to happen, but in the end, nothing happens. And looking back, I think I was watching the wrong story. Because every scene is really about Furio making the same decision over and over again. He doesn't tell her how he feels, and he doesn't betray Tony. Not because he doesn't want to, but because he knows exactly what that choice would cost him. There's one moment that always sticks with me, and that's the helicopter sequence. Furio is sat on the precipice of a new life. All he has to do is push Tony and his problems disappear. But honestly, I don't think that's the interesting part. The interesting part of this sequence to me is that Furio doesn't do this. And then, almost instantly, he leaves. No big goodbye for Carmela or the audience. He's just gone. And I think that's the bravest decision anyone makes in the entire series. Because everybody else in The Sopranos convinces themselves they can have both sides of this coin. Power and happiness. The mafia and a normal existence. Everybody tries to have everything, and Furio's the first person who looks at what he wants and quietly admits to himself, I can't have this. And I don't know, there's something incredibly sad about this, because leaving isn't really a victory for Furio. He loses both Carmela and this life that he's built in America. He walks away from everything. But every time I watch those final episodes with Furio, I keep coming back to the same thought. Leaving wasn't the thing Furio wanted, but maybe it was the only thing that he had left. Because staying would have meant becoming somebody that he wasn't. And after everything we've watched, I don't think Furio could do that. There's one thing I've always found really interesting about Furio's conclusion, and it's that David Chase never really gives it much attention at all. One minute he's there, and then the next he's gone. And somehow, that always felt right to me. I imagine most people thought Furio disappearing was a bit disappointing. This brilliant character just leaves. That can't be it. Surely there's more to come, but every time I've gone back to the show, I found myself appreciating this conclusion more. Because Furio doesn't leave because he's beaten. He leaves because he makes a conscious decision. And that's actually quite rare in The Sopranos. Think about everybody else in this cast. Furio's the first person who looks at his own life and says, no. And the funny thing is, walking away doesn't really solve anything. There's no happy ending waiting for him back in Italy. And that's even if he went back to Italy. And I actually think that's important, because Furio isn't choosing the better life. He's choosing the life that he can still live with. I keep thinking back to the man that we met in Season 2, the quiet professional, the man who never let his emotions make decisions for him. And by the end of the series, that hasn't really changed. He's still that man, the only difference is the decisions he's making is personal instead of professional. And I think that's why Furio's story has stayed with me. Because when his values and his desires finally collide, he chooses his values, even though it costs him everything. And there's something strangely hopeful about this. And I think that's why David Chase let him disappear instead of killing him off. Because Furio's punishment isn't death, it's loss. He has to live with the decision that he's made, and somehow that feels much more like The Sopranos than simply killing him. The first time I watched Furio, I thought he was the scariest guy in any room he entered. But now I think I see someone trying to hold on to the one thing everybody else in this show is slowly losing. Themselves. And maybe that's why his story ends so quietly. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is leave before the person you're becoming is someone you no longer recognize.